So, welcome everyone. This is a continuation of the last session we had. I'm not sure if everyone is here for our last dev call where we talked a little bit about improving the agent developer experience. So, today I'm excited to talk a little bit more about scaling agents on XMTP and what we found here today. So, one of the biggest findings that we had from the last session was on performance and scaling, and we have some exciting updates on that front. Also, some structural changes here on the Ephemera team as well. We actually have a full team now dedicated just to agents. So Fabri is going to be leading this team. I'll be heading things on the growth side. And then we also have Ryan Benny here on the technical side that are be able to dive in on things too. So anything that you need, we're here for you and excited to dive in today. So, like I said, Ryan Benny will be working on the technical process. Fabri will also be working on talking a little bit about the public roadmap that we have today and see exactly what we're kind of showing to the public and working on together here. So let's dive in. I'll pass it over to Ryan to get started on the state of agents.
Right on. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, so very recently we've been exploring what are the current performance limits of the Node SDK and how do we improve that performance over time. And please take these numbers with a grain of salt. These are numbers that are running on my local node on my system. So I wouldn't say this is typical. This is mostly to get down to the core performance of the SDK itself. But what we are seeing is the initial burst of over 1,000 messages being processed per second, which is pretty good. Again, if you are receiving a sustained fire hose of messages, that average throughput does go down to about 300. And if you are then receiving, again, just the fire hose over several minutes, or in fact, 15 plus minutes, the processing time goes down a little bit further to about 100 messages a second. So these are the numbers we're looking into now, and we'll cover that exactly what we're doing there on a different slide. And then part of this exploration was I was spinning up a bunch of threads in Node to send messages and to receive messages. And what I noticed right now is if you spin up over 20 threads at a time, our bindings become a bit unstable. I haven't really seen this below 20 threads, but as soon as you start getting to 50, even 100 threads, I would say there's, about a 20% chance that one of them will fail. There's some things that we can do about that, but that is not typical usage of the SDK. But it is something we are looking into, and certainly in the back of our minds is to make sure that it's the most reliable as it can be. Another thing that I've discovered is, again, this is not a typical usage, but of course, I'm trying to send as many messages as possible to an agent. And what I've noticed is as soon as you get to about 1,000 messages on a single client at the same time, we start running into some issues there. We are looking into that bug as well. I believe that is something that the Open MLS team is aware of, but definitely wanted to point that out here as something that we've seen and we're exploring a fix there. So this is kind of the current state of agents, and we'll get into the improvements we're exploring in terms of stream performance, as well as how do we scale way past 10,000 messages a second. So more on that a little bit later.
All right, awesome. Over to Fabri on the agent roadmap.
Hey, can you show the current live roadmap? Great. Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Fabri from the XMTP team and really excited to be kicking off the agents roadmap. This is the first time that we have a public roadmap, and this is the first time that we have a roadmap for agents, so that's super exciting news. The idea here is that to start, not to branch out, but to hear for developer demands that come from the agents ecosystem. Previously, we were only focusing on developing inbox on top of XMTP, but thanks to all of you, now agents have their own spot in our current roadmap priorities, and that's great. So if you get into these very early stages, and we are tackling some backlog items that we want to get done quickly, like for example, putting at parity XMTP chat with base app so you can experience the same content types, images, inline actions that base ship. We're also working on specific documentation for agents, so agents have their own place on our docs. And we're working, as Rai said, on performance. Now, looking forward, probably in the next coming weeks, we are going to be hearing for a lot of feedback. A lot of feedback has also been archived from the past, but this is now the time to again revisit where do we want to see agents in a year from now, in 2 years from now? What are the highest impact features that we could be working on? So yeah, like the backlog right now is um, tentative. It's a potential backlog, but we are exploring like an agent SDK, like further abstracting our Node SDK so it becomes more like a Web 2 agent development experience where you can just kick off a stream and start listening for incoming messages with 2 or 3 lines of code, and then also have the flexibility to put some filters or easily like to filter by content types, to filter even arbitrary filters like is the first time that I'm being talked in a group, is this a text, is get me the last 10 reaction messages. So more flexibility and less overheading for the developers when dealing with messages and streams. Transactions B2, we've seen transactions, they are live on Coinbase. It's a mix between the transaction wallets and call content type and the transaction reference content type. How can we improve transactions? How do they look in a B2, let's say, of transactions? That's something of our interest as well. Scaling agents, maybe the ability to plug a different database, not to be logged into SQLite, thinking about performance. Also, how we can maybe make it look like a high performance agent is balancing the load, maybe in multiple instances. Also, we are also exploring that. So yeah, this is again early stages. Everything is public, and hopefully we can really get the priorities straight, and also as well as the vision, and start working towards that.
So make sure you guys, so Jayha just dropped this in the chat. Feel free to save it, and this will be consistently updating as we work through this. Cool. So over to Benny. Benny, you want to introduce yourself too?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Benny. I just started with Ephemera and I'm here to help with developer success, meaning that I'm also looking into issues that we get logged, and that I'm also thinking about how can we make the coding experience much nicer. And one idea that we came up with was providing an agent SDK on top of our current Node SDK. So we were thinking, okay, how can we simplify agent development, and how can we do that without breaking compatibility with anything that is already like out there? And that's what we will see like on the next slide, because we took the Node SDK and we were like playing around with some ideas, what would be nice to have as a developer. Yeah, and these features here, they are like inspired from the Node.js ecosystem. So also from frameworks that you may be familiar with. So first of all, we are starting with an event-driven architecture. Everyone that builds already with Node.js knows probably event emitters, so that you can subscribe to some events using on and then yeah, a topic name. And that's also something that we thought might be very useful. So you can see that on the right, there's a screenshot that shows all the features, and I will just yeah, walk you through it bit by bit. So the event-driven architecture then allows that you can create an agent. You can see that on the top line on the screenshot. We create a new agent. We pass in our XMTP client, the one that you already have. And then you can have subscriptions. You can say agent on message. And then this one will give you the possibility to supply a callback. And the callback also gives you a context. So from that context, you can then access the conversation that the message appeared in, or the message itself with the content that it has. And here we just see an example of an echo bot that just echoes back what you write to it. So in the conversation that it got the message, it will reply with the message content that it got. It's as simple as that. Yeah, we see there 3 lines of code to build an echo agent. Of course, not the smartest agent, but an agent. And just with the start command, you can hook this all up. What makes it more interesting than just simple subscriptions is middleware, because we've seen that you may want to also like have telemetry, or that you want to have reportings, analytics. Yeah, how much is your agent doing? How much messages does it send? Or like how fast or slow it responds. So all of this you can now hook up. We planned to like introduce like middleware support. If you know Express.js, very famous framework in the Node.js ecosystem, then you are already familiar with the concept. So in the screenshot, we see there like middleware support at the paint emoji. And I just, for example, created a command router because often you want to have like /start, /help and these commands. So you can then have like such middleware, such routing middleware, and then connect it with your agent using the use functionality and then putting in the middleware. What also is very often necessary is filtering messages. So sometimes you want to have a message that is text only. Yeah, you don't care about then attachments or replies or reactions. So you want to filter only messages that are texts. We can see that here in the very bottom of the screenshot, where we have a subscription on all messages. But then after the callback, we supply a filter, and the filter is chainable. So you can build your own conditions by just plugging together the filters that we provide. For example, in here, we can see that we connect a filter for text only with a filter for not from ourselves, meaning all text messages that are not written by our agent will be coming in. And then to these, we reply with a just, hey, yeah, this is then a built-in filter. We provide some filters and then also give you the possibility to create your own. So these are some concepts that we have in mind. Of course, this is all like still in early development. Yeah, this is a preview. If you like, yeah, have feedback to it, please like let us know right away, because this is still not being published yet, and is like also like something that you can highly influence with your feedback. And I see already like some messages ongoing here in our webinar, which is nice.
That's great. Thanks, Benny. Tanto, you want to expand on your comment here?
Yeah, I think the examples repo is great because they're really good at showing like one standalone pattern or feature. But when it comes to like hitting the ground running, a nice thing too would just be having like the official production starter that like has the don't respond in group chats unless replied or mentioned. Like don't like emoji reaction, something that you just like choose your emoji, it's gonna auto. Like so maybe with the if there's a config at the beginning that you can pass in where you just say, okay, you're replying with the eyeball emoji, because those hooks are like already very like I'm adding those constantly to every new build already, just so that it and like you know what I mean? Maybe like that should probably be done already for people. Because imagine if you're initializing your agent with like, okay, this is your name, this is the emoji you're responding to. It already knows not to only respond to replies or mentions from there, and just kind of like because that's where I think like you would hit the ground faster by just focusing on people, just like you said. If you can abstract the main core logic of your agent into that middleware or something like that, that's piping and processing your agents or your messages with like a trigger phrase or something, that would just, I think that'd be easier. Because that's kind of like work that I just keep always having to do when I'm starting a new agent is I'm rewriting those patterns when like, yeah, an opinionated starter for like production agents would be awesome.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's exactly what the agent SDK is going to do for devs. There are a lot of copy paste snippets that could be much simpler, as you say, Tanto, like filtering for groups, maybe the thinking UX just to be out of the box, and um, yeah,
Yeah,
even like
because
yeah,
that's kind of like so like exactly like I when I want to start making an agent, I want to start adding working on that core functionality or feature, right? If I have a custom smart contract interaction, that should be like the bulk of my work. I shouldn't be like rewriting UX etiquette for the agent, like again, because I end up having to like come back to that part after. And when I'm testing, I'm like, oh shit, it's responding to every message in a group with multiple people. And then I'm going back and just, it would be awesome if like to have an official starter where like that's just built in at the beginning. So devs can focus on like what their agent is actually doing rather than copying little snippets of boilerplate and finding that where to put that in.
agree. Yes, even for scaling them and performance that we haven't gotten into that, like I can expect that managing multiple clients or um, using custom databases is going to be adding a lot of copy paste snippets as well. So I think that uh, this is laying the foundation for even more complexity in the future.
Yeah. Like and also like you guys were working. I've noticed the improvements on the SDK, especially like from like version 3 to 4, like the on restart. It's like it's gracefully failing and restarting better. Like my agent isn't no longer crashing, and that might have been like my own fault. I might have been like hitting a rate limit by running a loop somewhere that I shouldn't have been. But that part has gotten a lot better. Like the agents are a lot more stable with the recent updates. But I'd love a production like official starter because like right now I'm pointing everyone to the examples repo, which is awesome because there's a lot of good stuff in there, but they're still ending up having like to solve all of those things I just mentioned. They're still having to like implement themselves when they should just be focusing on their core agent logic.
Yeah, agree. Well, super aligned.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Tanto. Cool. Back to Rai.
All right. On that note, so these are some of the things that we are aware of and exploring to improve performance, excuse me, and scaling. So right now, we've noticed that once an agent gets past 1,000 conversations, which is typical if it's replying to a lot of people. So one thing we've done and we're continuing to do is improve the sync all performance. Now, this is something you typically run when you start your agent to make sure it has all the latest conversations and messages. It's not something we recommend you run consistently in the background as part of an agent process, but if your agent does restart for some reason, the nodes are down, the agent connection is down. When you spin that back up, generally speaking, you run the sync all to make sure you then get all the latest stuff you may have missed while you were down. So we are working on making sure that performance is as best as possible when you have more than 1,000 conversations. Another thing that we've seen is once you start getting tons of conversations, the storage starts to grow exponentially. And so what we are exploring potential optional storage where there is no storage for the agent, so that doesn't become an issue. And then we're also exploring custom storage. Again, this is simply an exploration right now. Nothing is guaranteed at this point, but things that we have top of mind right now for agents that have tons of conversations.
How much
So
can
go
I
ahead.
ask? Can I ask the specific, like how much storage are we talking here? Like I'm wondering what like some of the larger production agents are seeing in terms of required storage for conversations?
I think Fabri might have better numbers, but I've seen it's like over a gigabyte, right, Fabri?
Yeah, like Banker is at the gigabyte, and
Okay.
yeah.
Because most like of the hosting platforms have like minimum storage where like the minimum you pay for persistent disk is like a gig anyways. But yeah, okay. Yeah, that's another runaway cost that would be awesome to control. But I haven't run into that issue yet, luckily.
Yeah, I mean, this is, obviously thinking far future where you may have easily over 100,000, and if you're successful, over 1 million conversations. That storage is just going to keep going up and up and up, and obviously the costs associated will also go up. So, looking for as many options as we can get there to help with that. As far as processing messages, um, ideally, we want to be able to process over 10,000 messages a second. Obviously, this is a future problem to have, a good problem to have, but we want to make sure that when, the network is fully going, that your agent can have, again, if you're successful, millions of users, right? That's the goal here. So we want to make sure that we can handle that sort of fire hose of messages coming in. So I'm mostly exploring this right now. I'm profiling our SDK in Rust to make sure that there's no obvious bottlenecks there. So the first step is to make sure that our stream performance, that's when you call stream all messages, is the best it can be. And then there are other explorations that we're looking at right now, potentially using multiple installations. So there's two aspects to agents. One is ingesting of messages, and then obviously the second part is, or maybe it's three parts. There's processing of that message. Maybe you're sending off that to an AI agent or something like that, and then it's sending the message back to the user. So if you have multiple installations, you can maybe think of it as like a load balancer to where you're ingesting those messages and then potentially throwing that message into a database. And then you have all of these installations grabbing from the database is, when it becomes available, and processing that message and then responding to that message. Again, this is nothing set in stone right now, but these are things we're thinking about. Obviously, if anyone has feedback on this, we are completely open to it. Another option we're thinking about is a simple webhook. This kind of thing is built into our current notifications server that we've written in Go, where you can, again, this is a separate thing, but when you subscribe to messages, you can actually get those sent to a webhook. So that's something we could potentially look at, is to improve performance. Is like you're actually outside of the SDK to receive your message. You just set up an Express server or any other web server, right? And you can then process these messages from a webhook as they come in. Obviously, that message would be encrypted. You will need to obviously have your agent or your clients spun up so that you can decrypt it. So obviously, we want to keep everything secure. So yeah, the webhook may give us something, but again, we haven't quite gotten there yet. But these are things we're thinking about, top of mind right now. Obviously, open to suggestions from anyone here on the call. But yeah, that's kind of where we are right now with performance and scaling.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. Looks like Shawn had a comment on for storage, maybe a ring buffer. Shawn, did you want to expand on that or maybe
Yeah,
next
no,
time?
I'm kind of learning as I go here, so I'm picking up through context what we're working on. The initial thought that I had was that this was just sort of an in-memory uh, issue, but it sounds like this is more just wanting to persist all of these messages long term. So that wouldn't be an appropriate solution.
Got it.
Yo, what's up, Shawn? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, man.
What about the scaling the members in chats too? There was a post and for feedback about that. Can someone talk about that a little bit? Because that's definitely applicable for what I'm going to talk about at the end of the call.
Yeah, Nick, do you want to get the latest on group size?
Yeah. I mean, right now we are limiting groups to 250 members because that's where we think we can get, good, reliable performance. But there's low-hanging fruit that we can cut to make that much higher. The biggest one right now is inviting a large number of members to a group. So when you want to set up that 250 member group, there's a lot of duplicate work. And we think we can cut that duplicate work down substantially, and that would get us up to 500. There's an issue I'll share in the chat where we outline all the steps that can get us, above 1,000 for maximum group size. We just have to execute them one after the other, benchmark it, and make sure that the performance is still great at the end of each, set of revisions.
Awesome. What's like, how long, what's the rough ETA on that for like, as far as where that fits in with the roadmap, with everything else, like with the agent SDK and the rest of the priorities?
Yeah, the first item, I can point you to our roadmap board. This is just behind a couple other tickets, so I think we'd be getting to it in September.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. I see this slide is show and tell. Is this my part now? Is that?
This is your part. Your time
This
to
is my part.
shine, Tanto.
Okay.
Great
My
segue.
part. Let's go. All right, sweet. So I
Do you want to
yeah,
share your screen?
I would love to share my screen.
Cool. You should be able to. I think you're a panelist now.
I am, yeah. I see that share. And sure. Sorry guys, figuring this out. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, sweet. So I had this awesome idea that I actually got from a guy on this call whose name is Shawn. And Shawn had this awesome idea of using EVM auth. So he thought, why do agents with wallets need API keys? They should just get their permissions from an NFT as an access token. And so it's like an expiring 1155 that kind of inherits from Open Zeppelin access controls. And then there's this EVM auth access control. There's a base, there's a purchasable, there's an expiring. I don't want to speak too much about his specific implementation other than I think it's awesome, and I adapted it for XMTP group chat management. And I kind of see two awesome branches, and I didn't know which one was better, so I wanted to present them both here, and then maybe even invite Shawn up to talk maybe more on EVM auth and what the future could look like if this is a good architecture for XMTP agents. But I thought this was awesome, and I was like, what would this look like? What would a simple V1 version of the contracts look like, just to kind of manage memberships in a group? So I created a factory contract that pretty much creates it's a chat-based agent that will like manage the memberships of the group with basically like by deploying and minting these tokens. I think, yeah, like my V1 that I worked on was very specific to like just making it work with XMTP and kind of like not exactly like, you could make this as an access token for an API, like Banker's API, for example, right? Like I kind of thought, because I was looking at combining my other agent DStealth with the Banker API. And the idea I got was like, well, how do I kind of like, what's my monetization strategy around doing that? If I'm paying 10 cents per request, are these users doing that in a group chat that like I'm token gating myself? So I was trying to build out architecture and kind of dog food and use it myself. And yeah, I ended up kind of coming up with, I kind of YOLO'd the V1 to mainnet just because I'm trying to dev test this. And like, the one qualm I have with Coinbase is that the TBA wallet is just not testnet developer friendly. Like I'm doing all of this on mainnet. It's like the metadata of my NFTs aren't showing up in the wallet. But of course, it's like scammer NFTs are being indexed and shown. So I'm just so confused, right? Like what am I doing wrong? I'll figure it out with the TBA team. But yeah, this is like a mono repo. It's very messy. I originally actually just forked the actual agents repo itself because I wanted to kind of like what if each agent could be updated to be using the EVM auth contracts sort of. So then I pulled in his like the actual core contracts, and then V2 was where I'm playing with what if we actually like inherited his full system and we turned this into an extension. So the group management becomes an extension to EVM auth, and that might create like a way more composable architecture. One of the ideas I had was like a megapod extension. So now like the agent's buying a ticket every day, and then you're incentivizing the group chat with like that lottery. And then maybe this could create, I'm wondering, obviously, like when you're letting users deploy their own extensions into the group chats and the agents, I'm wondering like, because right now it's all shared through the XMTP auth.base.eth agent, which is managing and it creates two groups, a sales group and a premium group. So the idea is the agent manages the sales group, real users get updated to the premium group. And yeah, I'm going to stop talking because I don't know how, I don't know if I'm making sense. Oh, I should show you the video demo of it on I think I casted it on my Farcaster. Do things not crosscast? Oh yes, here it is.
Can you expand it?
I'm
There
trying.
you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So here I'm creating my group. I'm approving a transaction. So 0.001 ETH to deploy the factory contract, and then I subset the agent's going to pay for all the gas for your deployments after. I accept. You can set up tiers pricing in both USDC and ETH. ETH actually gets like locked in the group contract, but there's a withdraw function. So you can kind of have group chats with TVL now, which I thought was cool. USD payments go straight to the creator of the group chat. So like I think it's a 97.5% revenue goes straight to the creators.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a cool idea. I would really love it to get like I'm really hoping here for feedback, ideas on how to make it better, how to get these NFTs to actually show up in the collectibles section of the TBA wallet. Like I'm hoping someone has the plug with Coinbase and we can figure that out. But so yeah, so setting up your tiers, right? Flexible. I just kind of did this to demonstrate the USDC and the ETH pricing. Yeah, sorry, this part of the demo is really boring watching me try to get the format exactly right. I probably should like make this parsing way more intuitive. I haven't made this agent smart yet because like what I did with destealth, usually my agent flow is like, let's just figure out the basic command switch of my functionality because I don't want to start paying like the GPT API credits to actually pipe the responses in and then format them back if I don't have to. So I usually build dumb agents first, and then I look at making them smart after.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry guys, this is I am gonna. Anyways, trust me, this works. The pricing is deployed. They end up looking like this. We call XMTP metadata.
Right.
Also, there's a grant trial command, so users can, if they want to, like the agent will mint and send this to whoever you want. So there's 5 owners here because I've been minting and granting some users some trials. And then obviously like the user can buy them in the sales group, or they can buy them directly from the agent if you know the contract address of the group you're trying to purchase. So this would be the destealth contract address on base mainnet that was deployed, the factory for deploying these tokens. And I'm open to questions. I should share the repo, I guess.
Yeah, I saw the NFT on TVA issue. There are like no NFTs at all, like from any chain, nothing.
No, there are for sure, because I get scam NFTs. Like I've won 50 ETH airdrop in my wallet, and I'm like, yeah, like I deserve this, but I know this isn't real, you know? Like, so I don't know. I'd have to figure that out with Claudia. I was gonna message Dylan or Claudia. I kind of wanted to demo it here for you guys first, and yeah, maybe Shawn can explain his plans for EVM auth. And like kind of like what you yeah how to maybe combine because I still am not sure like I'm not decided if this is like better off as a specific implementation or if we can actually like use the full EVM auth architecture. I'm uncertain.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, and I am hopeful that we can sort of combine our efforts here because one of the goals of EVM Auth is to just be a very flexible token contract, right? For those that are not familiar, ERC 1155 is just sort of the best of both worlds between ERC 20 and NFTs, where it's just a multi-token standard. And there's actually a newer standard as well, 6909, that I like as well. And so what I'm currently doing with EVM Auth is building it out to support both of those token standards, and to make it much more extensible. So there's actually a branch on here called ERC 6909, and this is actually more what the code is going to look like. Yeah, if you don't mind jumping into the ERC 6909, basically what I've done here is try to make all of these contracts very much built the way that Open Zeppelin builds their implementations of the tokens, but just with some extensions. And so there's an extension like this abstract, the access control, uh, the access control version of the contract. It just layers in different roles and protects, gives public facing methods for all the different functionality that's in all of those extensions. But you can see that there's just one extension for adding TTLs to the tokens, right? And so automatic expiration, things like that. There's another one for adding a price, and then you can choose to either add purchase functionality or purchase with ERC20 functionality. And so it's designed to be very flexible. You kind of mix and match these things as you want, but the access control version of that contract kind of brings it all together. And there's going to be one of these sort of broken down in the same way for the 1155 token standard. So people can choose what they want to do. I'm planning on making it upgradable so that it can be deployed in an upgradable way. And my company, Radius, is actually going to be providing sort of a managed service so that you can easily deploy these things using an upgradable proxy, a beacon proxy. So there's going to be a lot of really exciting things. It's going to be very extensible and useful for a lot of different use cases. But at its core, it's really meant for authorization state management. Now, it could be used for anything any token could be used for, but I think the interesting use case, especially with things like AI agents, is having the ability to token gate access to things long term. So if anybody's been following along with what Coinbase has been doing, for example, with the X402 protocol, it's X402 is basically just using the HTTP 402 payment required response. But what you would do with that is you would make an API request and then get a 402 response, and then you could program your AI agent or whatever to use that response to pay for access, and you would just get sort of one-time access to an API resource. But what you can do with EVM Auth is, because it's state management, basically purchasing tokens that can expire after some amount of time, you can combine that with X402 so that you still have this sort of standardized HTTP response, and you know how to purchase the thing that you need to get access, but then you have this token, and as long as you have that token, as long as that token's not expired, you can build systems that just check to see if you own that token. And so that was kind of the idea behind the whole thing.
Morgan here. This type of stuff gets me really, really excited. Because it's just like moderation at scale and like how that really works. And we've seen it work on some platforms better than others. Like, you look at Reddit in terms of Reddit moderation. But being able to like scale these group sizes at the same time from, you say, 256 now to maybe a couple thousand in the future, there's just so many interesting use cases that you could begin to apply really programmatic moderation to large size group chats. Like an immediate one that comes to mind is like in a like a natural disaster area, ZK location on people that live there or are active there, being able to talk to your neighbor in that capacity. So it's like, I don't know, just really, really cool stuff when you start to combine these technologies. It's really exciting. Thanks.
yeah, there's really so much you can do with these things. It's very cool. It opens up the door to a lot of possibilities, and I could see even using something like EVM auth as a form of rate limiting, right? So, if you have it on a platform that's extremely low cost, I know Base is down to like what, thousandth of a penny per transaction or something like that. So if you can, and Radius is looking to push that number even lower. So you get a network that's really high speed, low latency, low cost, and you can do these things at scale, then you can start charging microtransactions and using, um, payment payment required responses as a form of rate limiting to just to disincentivize people from spamming, right?
Oh, this is
Awesome.
great. Yeah, Tonto, Shawn, thanks so much for sharing. Um, any comments from the XMTP team? I know we've been kind of like talking a little bit about this internally as well.
I also just want to mention that the EVM auth project is open source, it's public on GitHub, and PR is welcome. Love to have some contributions.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably circle with chat with Shawn and figure out the best way to probably turn the XMTP group manage like my contract into an extension for his final audited EVM auth, and that'll be like a more robust implementation. For now, I'll just rock the V1 on mainnet to try to just like debug and dial in the agent. I'm pretty sure everything's nice, but there's like some UI UX stuff I'd like to do. I'd like sometimes the just making sure the address like base names resolve nice with the smart wallets and stuff, and that the agent should never send the client an address like you saw during the demo. It's sending addresses that the user doesn't care about that. It wants to, if anything, it should send the OpenSea link so it can see my NFT and like some other things. Like there's a task that's going to keep the metadata for the group chats in sync by actually taking the image from the group chat that they set. My garbage is here. Sorry, it's gonna get loud. But yeah, like that. Thanks so much for letting me present this. I'd love like if anyone gets more ideas about like the right way to take it or how to maybe any cool ideas for extensions, please send me a DM. I'd love to chat more about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well.
Cool. Shawn, Tanto, anything you guys need? I just put the question back on you guys. Anything you need from us right now? Like what can we do to support to get this going?
I mean, definitely uh, if you could priority bump my request from the Coinbase TBA wallet team, and let's figure out why these NFTs aren't showing up in the collectibles. Maybe they gotta like whitelist my factory addresses or something. I don't know, but that'd be the main thing because I think the faster user like I build in safeguards, right? Like if no one's gonna like there you can't probably put too much ETH in there because like the bot agent will run the withdraw command for creators. So like the idea is to like let's just like try to get some people using this, and like I don't know who the biggest people are who are managing big XMT chats. So yeah, that would be the thing. It's just some support from the TBA team to help get this like figure out how to get people actually using the V1. And then we can figure out all the cool AI micro payments and things with the full EVM auth implementation moving forward for a V2.
Awesome. Yeah, why don't you just drop in the group chat, in the TBA developer group chat, and we can help support there.
Sounds good.
Sweet. All right. Thank you guys. Any other thoughts, questions, comments from the team?
One token? No, I'm kidding. Thanks so much for everyone.
Cool. All right, let's wrap it there. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.